couple of years ago, we made a speech, and we mentioned a little story of the Charles Tyrwhitt shirts. I don't know if you remember this story. What it was, and this story went viral, especially in Lakewood. The story was that the owners of Charles Tyrwhitt, they live in London, and they have this big company. They did research and realized that their biggest, most selling store in the world is some simple house in Lakewood, New Jersey. So they said, we have to come see this house. So they went to Lakewood, New Jersey, and they came to see the house. And again, it's a simple Lakewood house. And they're like, you sell more shirts than Madison Avenue? And while they were there, a customer came in and said, oh, I came for 4 shirts. And they said, yeah, you can get it. They told their daughter, give it to them from the garage. The person said, where should I leave the money? Leave it like on the table in the garage. These owners from London said, you just let them leave the money on the, you trust them to leave the money on the table in the garage, and you sell more shirts than Madison Avenue? They said, yeah, that's how this town works. They said, how do you sell so many shirts? So they took the owners to Lakewood Yeshiva. They took them to BMG, and they stood on the 2nd floor of one building that has 1,000 people in there, and they pointed down to 1,000 students. You see them? 1,000 people wearing Charles Tyrwhitt shirts. All of them wearing the same style, the same color, same shirt. They were so impressed and so inspired. Anyhow, I told this story. They made a little clip out of it. It went viral, and it went especially viral in Lakewood. Very nice. So, on this trip that I went to Poland with these 350 girls, one girl comes over to me and says, Rabbi, I just want to introduce myself. I said, who are you? She says, I am the daughter of the Charles Tyrwhitt guy in Lakewood. I says, oh, wow. I said, I need to tell you a story. I said, you know, like 3 months after, she said, you know, in our house we have this big debate. Who made who famous? Did we make you famous or you made us famous? Okay. I said, I have to tell you a story. I said, one day I was in the car with my wife, and she's on the phone with your father. And she's ordering 20 shirts. I told my wife, I said, honey, tell him that you are my wife. Maybe we'll get a deal, like we publicize this thing, maybe I'll get half off. And my wife refused to say a word. She said, well, is it relevant who you are? I'm just buying the shirts. She hung up the phone. I remember saying to her, honey, you gotta be kidding me. Like, 20 shirts you bought, I don't even know what that cost. Let's get it for half price. I think I deserve it for free. She says, you're crazy? I'm not saying a word. I told the girl the story. Girl says, you have to hear the other side of the story. She said, after my father got off the phone with your wife, he walked into the kitchen and he said to my mother, do you believe Rabbi Haber's wife just called me and didn't mention a word about that she's Rabbi Joey Haber's wife? And he was in the background telling her to say something and she wouldn't say a word. I guess it's easier not to acknowledge while I was on the phone. You could charge full price. So anyhow, she told me a story. One of these days I got to meet this man, by the way. But anyhow, maybe this Pesach we'll order 20 shirts. Maybe we'll get a deal like I'm begging. So anyhow, this girl tells me a story. She says, some of the shirts are unique to Lakewood. Like they fit the Lakewood community a little better, their needs, and they're unique to Lakewood. So the owners of Charles Tyrwhitt this year called up her father and said, can we have one of your unique shirts, just one of them, a certain size? Can you ship it to us to London? And he did. He took the one shirt and he shipped it to them in London. She said they found out afterwards that the shirt was going to be given to the King of England. So she said, we were all like, oh, wow, that was sure was going to the King of England. We should have touched it. We should have held it. Like it's going to the King of England. I told the girl, I said, are you serious? She says, what do you mean? I said, you're so excited about a shirt that goes on the King of England? He's some puppet. I said, your shirts go on B'nai Torah. Your shirts are going on people that are learning Torah every day. You're supplying shirts for thousands of kings. You care about one king that's a nice guy maybe, I don't even know, but like, that's what you're excited about? We view ourselves in this light. We are kings. We are queens. We are Hashem's children. We are taken care of in unnatural ways. and therefore we're expected to have unnatural responses.